Hey guys, it's your host Kay Did of Hear Our Voices. Thank you for coming back one more time to listen to the podcast. I hope you're enjoying so far in season 4. We have come a long way. And if you were here from the beginning, there's little ups and downs, but I think we're getting it kind of together at this moment. And we're just going to be bigger and better in 2024. So happy New Year if I didn't say that in the last podcast before this. And I have little things to tell you guys. So please follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I want to say also YouTube. So we are usually on Twitter and Instagram the most out of all the social medias. Everything will be down below. Also, if you want to talk to me down anytime, I'm always up literally all the time. If you have any questions, I am here to help you. If I don't know something, I would ask somebody who does this job all the time to help you, and I make sure you get the right and proper information because it's important to give people right information. To get wrong information does not help anybody. So I make sure I do that for, I do diligence, guys. So my information also will be in the link tree down below. And we'll get into the interview today. So we actually have a person from the Bridge Project, and she'll tell you more about what the Bridge Project actually does. And guys, I tried, I promise. I want to say Syntyché. I feel like I pronounced it out properly. Syntyché. I feel like I said that wrong. Guys, I tried. But I want her to tell you her name and how the proper pronunciation for it.
Thank you, my friend. My name is Syntyché Francella. So thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here.
Thank you for being on. This program I knew about, it came out a couple of years ago, and it's actually a cash program for moms she's going to tell you more about it. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Bridge Project and what it does and how did it start actually?
Well, I just love to hear you talk. So I just was hoping that you would just keep going and just explain it, make my life easy. But the Bridge Project started in New York City in 2021 to address the profound need and awareness that child poverty exists in this country. And it was a response to not only what was happening during COVID, where we just saw this large need within communities throughout the country, but we focused on New York City. And it provides cash allowance to new and expected moms in New York City up to $100,000. We've expanded into Rochester and Buffalo. So we're really excited about our growth. And it's this understanding that the first 3 years, the first 1,000 days of a baby's life is a beautiful time, right? Of curiosity and development and joy and right.
Right.
And
It is.
and as I share, right, and I think about a baby laughing, right? Like I was on the train this morning and just thinking about babies' laughter and how infectious it is, right? And wanting that to be more of the experience for babies and families in New York City, right? So it's this, yes, let's end childhood poverty, right? Every kid deserves a chance, right?
They
Every new
do.
mom and mother deserves this opportunity just by being born, right? Like to
Right.
have a joyful childhood, to have access to diapers, right? To have access to formula when you need it, right? And so the 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 work is around doing that by offering unconditional cash allowance to moms. Because when we have better kids, the planet's better, man. Like, let's have more giggling babies, please.
That's so true. So I'm gonna go back from the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Did you guys only take moms initially who were in shelter, or was they living in like proper housing? When I say proper, like a roof over your head, kind of have proper housing.
Understood. Yeah, very good question. So initially, the program wasn't focused, and still isn't necessarily focused to moms that are homeless. And thank you for schooling me before the podcast on using homeless versus unhoused. That should be an outtake because that was some good medicine. I appreciate you for schooling me on that. Um, so the focus wasn't necessarily on homeless moms. It really was around looking at the income, the household income that moms had. And so
Right.
we have a threshold for that, which is about $50,000 or less here in New York, 52,000 actually, right?
Right.
And so when you think about a mom in New York City, what that looks like in terms of your bag, so to speak,
Right.
right? Like, so it was that was what determined at least narrowed down the demographic of person we were looking at, right? Like a mother that had this particular income, you know, how many, right now it's her first child, right? Um, and so on and so forth. At least 18 years old is also another requirement. But that was the requirement. And then when you think about, well, who are these moms? Where do they work, right?
Right.
Which is also really interesting, right? Like we have moms in our program that are homeless, and we have moms that work full-time jobs, right? So, but that income threshold really helped us, and just data driven, right?
Right.
Determine who would benefit most from this unconditional cash allowance.
You know what's very interesting is that you put in there that some people have full-time jobs and they still are not making that much money. That's sad. That a whole person, I even forget if about the baby. You know, we love the babies here, of course, because I have
Yeah,
two of
yeah,
my own. But it's just like a person's making this much money and it's not even over 52,000. That's no in New York City, that's no money. That's like literally that's nothing. You can
mhm.
you can survive, of course, but it's like, is it a life? I'm not gonna say you cannot be happy because you definitely can. Money is not or and thing, but it's like that money doesn't go as far as you might think it did 10 or 15 years ago. And then to add a baby onto that and the other things that baby bring, diapers, bottles, wipes, things like that, special soap, because they can't use the regular soap that we do because we're adults. They have to use sensitive soap for their skin and diaper rash cream, all these things. And it's like, wow, thank
Yeah.
God for this program. Like,
Yeah, no, real, it's real. And you know, something you said just made me think about, like, there's surviving and then there's thriving, right? And
right,
so there's a huge difference in terms of being a mom feeling resourced and being a mom that doesn't feel resourced, right? And
right.
what that looks like in terms of access to food, access to formula, right? Like we had a formula shortage in this country. Like
Yes,
how
we
weird is
did.
that? You
Oh
know what
my
I'm
God, I
saying?
can imagine.
So when you talk about, you know, a salary, right? You can make $52,000 and your rent is $2,500. I mean, it's New York City, right? And that could be
Right.
a one bedroom, right?
A
Um,
studio at this point.
if you don't preach. And so, right? And so when you think about formula, when you think about diapers, when you think about baby wipes, you know, we also think about that from the lens of that child not having any additional or special needs, right? When you layer that
Right.
with with a young baby that might have special needs, um, that changes everything. Now you're seeing a specialist. Now you're seeing,
Mhm.
you know, a coach. Now you have to go across this way because the best person for that person is the pediatrician referred that person. And so you have all of these responsibilities and commitments. And anytime you
Right.
talk about navigating a city, you're talking about needing financial resources, right? Whether you have to
Right.
take the bus, the train, the taxi, and who wants to be on the metro with a newborn, with everybody breathing on this
Ex
beautiful new human
Mhm.
that's in the world, our side, right? Like, so I think when we let me be honest, when I became a new mom, I did not fully appreciate all the things that nobody put in the book, right?
Right.
You know, it wasn't just what to expect when to expect it. It's what you don't even know that it could happen to you
Exactly.
expected, right? And you're a mom of multiple, so you
Right.
know from lived experience that what the first human needed, regardless of gender, right, is
Right.
completely different and can be completely different than the other one needs, for sure.
That's true. Like, example, people don't think, like you say, special needs, that a special need child might be in diapers longer than a regular child. I'm not saying that, all kids are great, but when a child has a special need, they can't speak or they do stuff like that, they're going to be in Pampers longer. Because my daughter right now, because she also took longer to speak, she's in diapers longer than my other daughter. She'll poop at school. I think it's probably just me because you know how the kids are. They're great at school. When they come home, it's a different person you're talking to. But when a child does have an extra little, something more about them, is more work to go into that child. You have to put in more energy compared to a child
Sure.
who's just as they will say normal or atypical. I think I'm not sure the proper word for that or not, but it requires more, and it's usually more years of that particular thing because they can't do themselves. They
Yeah,
can't bathe themselves by themselves. It's a lot more work goes into
for
it.
sure, for sure, for sure. And the unpaid emotional labor that mothers do, right?
Yes.
Like the let me phrase that. Not unpaid, the often seemingly uncompensated
Yes.
emotional labor, right?
Hmm.
And when I say uncompensated, not in terms of like the family unit or that like ecosystem, but more so like in terms of labor, right? Like, you understand that I have to do this before I get here at 9 o'clock, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
right? And when I come into the office and you talking to me about the copy machine, I'm
Hmm.
feeling a little bit away, right?
Right. It's so true. People do
Right?
not think about what it goes into that whole thing. They think, oh, you should be up at 9 o'clock. And I'm already not a morning person. People might think I am, but I'm not chipper at 9 o'clock. My chipperness really cuts in at 12. So you have to do all these things. I wake up at
Yeah.
5:45 in the morning to get my first daughter to school. Well, I
Right.
take both of them like school and daycare because the ages are different. And it takes so much just to do what you got to do, and then plus be clocked into work and make sure your brain is working for work and all these things. And to get to me getting that financial help, it takes almost a load of burden off of you. Because when
Of
you don't have
course.
money, it's a burden. It's a burden. When you don't know
Yes.
where your child's next meal is going to come from or diapers. Can you imagine? Because this happened to me in
Yes.
Jamaica by accident. And it even happened to me, like, granted, I was still homeless, but I had money for the Pampers, but I was in the country of Jamaica. And I didn't have Pampers for my daughter. I told my husband to get Pampers. He didn't get it in time. Our daughter is using a pad while the baby, because the Pampers wasn't there yet, and the
Yeah.
store's not like here in New York. You have to go a little ways to get the
Yeah.
proper
Yeah.
size for your child. So it's like
Yeah.
this is a thing, and people don't
Yeah.
understand. Money can do a lot. It's not. It doesn't solve all problems, but it does
No.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know, when I think about the Bridge Project, right? And
Right.
my colleagues are brilliant, like hands down. Like they, I've heard them on podcasts and interviews, and they spit the data. You know what I mean? I'm not. I have to have my notes for my data. But the data that I've gathered, right, if you will, is that it just brings a softness to a mother's life and a child's life, right? Like even for our moms that are homeless that are still in the shelter, it's
Right.
knowing that they have this so that they can take their kid out to eat instead of, right? That they can insert whatever, you know what I'm saying? And so there's
Right.
a softness to it that helps the mind body nervous system of mom and baby, right? And so
Right.
baby that giggles is the baby that giggles because there's space in the household to be able to have joy because all the adults
Mhm.
aren't stressed the heck out. You know what I mean? Like,
For
you
sure.
know what I'm
Oh my
saying?
gosh.
Like, Uncle Jeffrey is under the happier when the stew piece is on the table. You know what I mean? You know?
Right.
You understand? So I just kind of feel like there's space. It creates space for possibility, right? Like
Right.
that's what being resourced is about. Like, what else could I do besides pay bills? What else could I offer to my child instead of worry? Oh, I could sit down and play with them, right? And our moms have talked about
Mhm.
that. Like, instead of rushing back to work after 6 weeks, they're now able to stay home, or work a part-time
Mhm.
job instead of a full-time job, and how
Right.
that helps that mother show up differently and just creates a whole different, not just environment, a whole different ecosystem for this
Right.
human to live in. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so good.
I
It's
think
so
people
good.
don't think that, oh, you're only there for the baby, but mom, especially when people have babies, they have postpartum, all these things. People don't think that moms sometimes need a break. Some people they know like mom need a break, of course, but they think, oh, you should just be so happy. This is no, but we got to think about realistic things. How is this going to work? And if we have example, money to go outside to get like even especially in the shelter, get something from the restaurant just to make you feel good, or get your hair done. I always say, get your hair done, get your nails done,
Get your
because
nails
these
done.
small things you might think it does cost money to get it done, but it makes you happy when people look good. They feel good,
Right.
and that helps a baby because a baby feeds off the energy of who's around it. So
Right.
if mommy is sad
And
and depressed, yes, you could say,
no, no, no. If mommy's sad and depressed, I want you to finish that thought. If
if
mommy's
mommy
sad,
is sad and depressed, baby's gonna also people don't think that babies can get depressed or sad, but the baby lived inside the mom. So it
that's right.
knows it has a tie with that mom. When the baby's
Right.
out, the tie is just not broken. Like their connection in a way is broken, but it's
Right.
not fully broken because they're
Yeah,
still right there.
for
And
sure.
it can be very traumatic for a child. And we just got to think about those things. But yes,
Yeah, and thinking about like now this family is a little bit more resourced, and so now that child's relationship and awareness of money and resources is different, right? And
right.
so it's about the modeling as well, like what I hear you saying is so true, right? Like this unspoken component of parenting,
Hmm.
right, where our children or if we're caregivers, that young child is picking up on our energy. They can read a room, they can feel a vibe, like you know what I mean. And if the
They
vibe is
do.
constantly stressful, then we've created
Hmm.
an environment where that child is constantly stressed, right? Because that kid is responding to us. So, to your point, it's that nuance of a caregiving environment. I just made that up. It's the nuance. It sounds good, don't it?
It does though. It's a real thing. It's a real thing, guys. Take it.
Right, but it's the nuance of that caregiving environment that can help perpetuate those feelings of stress and worry, and that's not creative, right? Like when we're worrying and we're stressing, we can't come up with creative ideas, like And so being able to be softer, right, goes back to being softer, just creating this opportunity for young moms and new moms to be able to just have a little bit more softness, and it's guaranteed, right? So in your mind, like it's coming for 3 years, you have this. What a gift
it is. I wish I could have got it. I wish it was out when my baby was that young. I wish my daughter was born in 2015, but it would have been, oh my gosh,
my baby was born in 2002.
Congrats.
I was a New York City public school teacher, right? When my son was born, and I would have qualified for this program. So just think about that.
Wow.
Right? Just when we think about poverty, right, and not be a resource, like we get this image in our head from I don't know, right? But I was a New York City public school teacher. Wow. I had a city job.
I tell people all the time. I had a city
job, right? And I would have qualified for that program. And based on the income requirements, city workers do in fact qualify for our program.
Let's get into some data. As I always I say this almost in every podcast. People, prime example right here. People don't understand that city workers do not make that much money. They say, oh my God, they have all these benefits. I'm not saying all positions, but example, a teacher, in my mind, we know they don't get paid enough. They should be getting paid way more because they have to deal with a lot of craziness in the classroom and all these things will have to happen. So
hold on. Because I was a teacher. Before we even go to the craziness, right? Like, and I feel like yes, and in order to be a classroom teacher, to stand up in front of those people's children, a teacher needs to have a master's degree.
Right.
So I had more joy than I did madness, and I worked in urban schools, right? So, So yes, and in order to keep my job, I had to have a master's degree.
Right. That costs money.
Should I be financially compensated for that?
Right. Why are teachers in debt?
Asking for a friend, right? So to your point, right? It's yes, and the expectation of the profession is that I'm highly credentialed based on the standards that you say make me highly credentialed. Yet you don't want to compensate me for that.
That's the problem. And teachers have good benefits from what I understand. I know a couple of teachers, they stay in it just because of the benefits, but it's like you get benefits, yes, but are you able to stay above water? We're helping mold the mind of children, but yet I'm drowning. Water is coming into my throat while I'm feeding your child all these things. Who's helping me? And that's a problem.
Yeah.
We need to be able to give people who are helping others proper, like they should get paid properly. And it should go up I know it does go up after, but for New York City, we need to pay people better in general. For the example, the COLA, we're trying to work on these things. I know minimum wage went up $1. $1 for New York City is not a lot. $16, I thought it would be 20 something. What is $16? Because if you're on welfare, I know it's a different tangent, guy, but if you're on welfare and you have $16, they want to kick you off of that, but yet you really can afford to live where you are. So it doesn't make sense how the system is really rolling, but that's just beside the point. But I want to say with some data, a lot of people who are in shelter, a lot of them have city jobs. I'm not saying every one of them, but I want to say it's 48 or 49% of people not. I want to say this data is before we had the migrant switch, where they are a higher population in shelter. But before that, the people in shelter were 48 to 49% city workers. That's a lot of people. That's almost half. That's a problem. That's saying that's something in our system in New York City. I'm not gonna go to America. In New York City is broken. That means we're not getting paid enough. People to even get paid for we always tell people in school, that's what teachers tell us. We need food, we need shelter, and water. That's like the basic threes we need to really stay, grounded and be okay. You can still be depressed in your house, but at least we have shelter over your head. If we can afford one of the basic things, that's a problem. But I digress.
No, I think I think it's all interconnected, right? Like
Is
how right, and I think part of the Bridge Project's magic, in my opinion, is looking at that and asking questions like, okay, how can we show up in a way that's actually helpful, right? And knowing that truth, right? Knowing that data, then we know that if you're given a cash allowance, moms are just given the cash. Let
right,
that mother decide what is best for her and her family. Let that mother decide what her and her how her and her family are going to use those resources so that they can move from surviving to thriving along that spectrum in whatever way that looks like, right? And of course, we want, you know, to eradicate child poverty. We want every family to be living in a home and in a community that they like, all the things.
right,
Yes, and whatever, we recognize the facts, right? And we look at the data. Wherever that mom is in that moment in time and space, we know that this is helpful, and we know that this is helpful because moms are able to save for emergency funding. Moms are able to buy
right.
formula, especially if, you know, the child is has a reaction to formula that may be offered for WIC services, which is amazing, right? But, you know, maybe being in diapers longer, moms are able to supplement their rent, pay a family member who's watching their child, right? So sometimes even that beautiful
Mm-hmm.
story of, you know, my aunt or my cousin or my titi watches the babies, and now I'm able to give her a little something
Right.
because, right? You know, and so those, you know, to save up for school or training or a birthday party or hosting, you know, dinners, we know that when we give moms the money to do whatever it is best for them, then whatever is best for the child is also present.
It's so true. So I want to say this is unconditional. It doesn't matter what people use the money for. You
Yeah,
guys
we
are you guys not tracking it? Nothing like that.
no, we
That's
mind our
great.
business. Yeah. 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 And it's data driven, right? Like, you know, it's data driven. We know that when you give moms the money, they do what they need to do with it, and it's amazing, right?
Right.
So just give them the money. Give them the money and let
Literally.
them do what they need to do because they know what they need, right? They're the
Right.
CEOs. When you run a household, listen, that's a
Yes.
whole organization and
It really
corporation.
is though. It really is. We should get a certificate after our child turn 18. As long as they're alive.
You said a
We should get a
certificate.
whole certificate.
Hilarious.
I'm
Motherhood
just,
is a
you get
certificate
so much.
program.
It's so
Oh
much
my
you learn
goodness.
from being a mom. You got to do
Mm.
scheduling. You know, I can't do hair that well. You're like hairdresser. You over here managing money. You making a whole dollar out of a quarter. It's a lot of
A
management
whole
you have to
quarter?
do.
You balling. Dollar
Right.
out of 15 cents.
Right.
Yes.
It certainly
Yes.
is. It
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah,
is.
for sure. For sure. I mean, you have human resources issues,
Mm,
right? You got case management,
yes.
right? Right?
You a therapist.
Conflict resolution, all the things. All
You a
the
doctor
things.
at some point because you got a band-aid is gone,
Listen.
alcohol. You doing a lot. A part-time job,
Constantly. Yeah.
a full-time job. There's a lot of jobs. It never ends until you
It
even
never
when your child
ends.
gets older.
Yeah.
Apparently, it doesn't end. I don't know yet, but
Yeah.
apparently, even when your child gets 18, it don't matter. They
Yeah.
still on your side. So
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I want to get into the qualifications for
Mm-hmm.
people who they want to join the program. 'Cause I know you named some. I'm not sure if there's any more to do, but I want people, if you are listening to this podcast and you know somebody who might want to be a part of the Bitch program, we will have everything down below
Mm-hmm.
so a person can join it. Or and apparently before it used to be like a certain deadline, but now I heard like it's always open. So I want to get into that and the
Yep.
qualifications to be in this part of this program.
For sure, for sure. The first thing I would say to anyone is go to the website.
Right.
Definitely go to the website because as we grow and as we expand, up-to-date information and real-time information is going to be on the website.
Right.
And I say that also because your viewership might not be listening to it in January 2024.
That's true.
So I want to give the information, but I also want to recognize that as we grow and expand, things may change, right?
That's true.
And change in the direction so that it's an opportunity, that the opportunity grows and expands for folks in New York City and New York State. So what I would say is go to our website, which is bridgeproject.org. Go to our website, bridgeproject.org. Now, if you are in New York City, and the general qualifications across the board are you're at least 18 years old. So that needs to be said off the bat. And for New York City, you have an income requirement of $52,000 or less, and you need to be a New York City resident. But go to the and at least 23 weeks pregnant or less. So go to the website
before you. I don't want to forget
fill out the information. No, go.
I was gonna say, how do you prove residency? How long do you have to be? Like, example, if a person came in from Florida and they was only here for like 2 months, would they qualify for residency? People do it all the time. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, they need, as long as they have a new as long as they have a New York City address, mailing address. Yes. And so I was gonna say, once it is a randomized process, right? So even if a pregnant person is eligible, they're not guaranteed into the program, right? Like, so I kind of have to honor that. It's a lottery, right? So I just want to say that right now. And also, once they're accepted into the program, then there's a verification process that happens when there's onboarding. Right. So that's a second step, right? So you apply to the program. If you're selected into the program, you get in, and then there's a whole separate process that we go through where we onboard a person, and then there's the verification of residency, the verification of pregnancy, the verification of pregnancy duration, right? And so on and so on and so forth. So that happens afterwards.
I have another question.
Did that answer your question?
No, that definitely answered my question. I have another part of the question. So, example, if a person applied when they're 23 weeks, but the lottery doesn't get them until about, say, 30 weeks, would they not qualify then? Because when they initially applied, it was 23 weeks.
Right. So this is me and you on the highway, straight line, like no traffic, like perfect ideal situation. You put your indicator on, you go on the ramp, you did right. In a perfect world, when you're onboarded 23 weeks or less, when we reach out to you within a few weeks, then the onboarding process starts. So it's not necessarily about how many weeks you are when you're onboarded, but more so how many weeks were you when you applied, and then that turnaround time, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Right? I think that's fair. The expectation is that if you're 23 weeks or less, you'll be within, 20, I don't want to put us in a pigeonhole, but you'll be around 27, 28, you know what I mean? You'll be within, let's just say 30 weeks around the time that we'll finally reach back out to you, and so on and so on and so forth. And it vacillates, right? We're a small company. So sometimes it may be in a hard 3 to 4 weeks we'll reach out, and sometimes it could be 5 to 6 weeks. So I want to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to be what you said. I would be reached out at 27 and a half weeks, and it's 29 weeks. It's like, right. But more broadly, there's the pattern, right? Like you apply, you get an email of confirmation, which is really, really important that your application has been received.
Right.
Within a few weeks, we reach out. You'll know if you've been accepted into the program, and then it kind of flows from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes complete sense.
Does that answer your question?
It definitely does. Also, do the moms have to be, do they have to have paperwork? Like the migrants or asylum seekers or undocumented, can they also apply for this program?
1,000% they can.
Okay.
1,000%. 1,000%.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
1,000%.
I have a question. Was that implemented recently, or that was always the rule that they have? I know when you do pilot programs, certain things cannot go, and then after the pilot, they kind of change things around depending on. Yeah.
No, this is how it was.
Oh,
wow. This was the beginning, and this is
good.
This is yeah.
That's really good, because I know a lot of programs, when they start out, they're like, only people with documents could come in, and then when they kind of, smooth it on over with the stakeholders, it's like, okay, not everybody can come in. So that's good that they was thought about beforehand when doing this. That's pretty cool. That's nice.
Yeah, and I think one of the beautiful things about that, right, is like our intention is to end child poverty, right?
Right.
Full stop, period. Like, boom. And also, we recognize that there are thresholds, there are guidelines that need to be in place in order for a program, specifically this program, to function, right? And so if we have this income requirement, right? Like, because people make in New York making $55,000 a year, they're not actually balling, right? Like,
Right.
so,
Not at all.
you know, so we recognize that there's a need if you make 53.5. You know what I'm saying? But we made it 52 based on the data, but then at least we can also, right? And so when we think
Right.
about growth, it might not necessarily be this way, but it can be expansive, right? And how can we give as many women, as birthing women as possible, access to this program? And that's what I mean. Ultimately, you know, we would love to see it be a part of policy
It
in this
should
country,
be.
in New York. Of course,
It's a good program. And it's not
yeah,
like how
it is.
welfare is. Like it seemed like you make a little bit and then like just take it away. It just seemed like I think 52,000 is low, but it's high enough that a lot of people still can qualify for this particular program, which is great. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
count, like, example, do you count if a person has a part-time job plus welfare? Because I know certain programs, like example, I have NYCHA, they want to, when I had welfare, they want to count everything that welfare gave me to kind of, but do you count all the stuff HRA might give a person plus their job, or do you count them, like HRA is a separate thing and you only count the people's jobs information?
It's household income, right? So however you classify your household income and how
Okay.
is what that is considered.
All right.
Getting living in NYCHA is not income.
No, but HRA is like welfare?
Yes,
Like the welfare
yeah.
part. Yes. How do
Yes, yes, yes.
they count that cash that HRA gives you for that?
So yeah, so if your household income will be looked at,
Right.
I can't speak for everybody in New York City, but to date,
Right.
I haven't seen that eclipse past.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Because you're also qualifying for other benefits like WIC, like
Right.
food stamps. And so I haven't seen that combination of lived experience that then now you're exceeding past what the threshold is for qualification. I haven't seen that yet. Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
don't think so. I'm just asking because people might
No,
I
no.
think about questions
Listen,
you might think
first of
about,
all, your
So
mind is brilliant. I'm
thank
bowing down
you.
to the genius. Your mind is
Thank
brilliant,
you.
and it is a valid question. And I think part of it too. Like I know when I was a single mom was like running the numbers, right? And so
Yes.
when you're in the system, there's this while I've never been homeless, I was on food stamps, and there was a time, right? And
Right.
there's this and it's a lived experience where it's
Right.
like the system almost makes you feel like you're getting a whole lot. Like
They
like
do.
like and it's weird because it's like, oh, you get food stamp, you get this, and it's just like, but then when you run the numbers, you're like, oops, I'm gonna have to edit that out, my bad.
Oh, no problem.
But then when you run the numbers, you're like,
Not calculating.
the math isn't mathing,
It
you know what I'm
isn't.
saying? And so I think that's also like part of all of that to say is I understand where the root of where those questions come from, because I would have the same question, right? Because
Right.
you're I don't want to say we're made to feel, but the experience, that the interaction that I've had with the system, and that's uppercase lowercase system, is that you are being given this great opportunity, and all of these
Right.
resources,
Right.
and be grateful, and just don't talk about the fact that you're given so much and it meets very minimal of your needs.
That's the facts. That is a fact, though. They make it seem like it's so. They count like I don't. For me, my daughter, I got 283, right, for shelter. So basically, help Night to pay for my rent here.
Yep.
When I wasn't working, that's the only rent I had. When I was working, they still paid that 283. They cut it down when you kind of work to make less and less.
Yep.
They people want to count the SNAP. And I never knew how grateful I was for SNAP until I don't have it no more. I'm like, oh my God, food is so expensive.
Yeah.
They take away the cash. That goes first. If you get a job, that part is going first out of everything you have. And it's like, oh my gosh, people who are not only like, you're getting so much. This is why they always they think, especially with single moms, they think, oh my God, the single moms living on the system, they're living at NYCHA. And I'm like, do you know how much food really costs and how much they're really giving us? Because it's not that much. You can hardly buy diapers, toothpaste, toothbrush, shampoo, conditioner, soap, deodorant, on these things. God forbid if I have to buy a pad. God forbid I gotta buy a pad. That's extra money out of your pocket. And
God
that's
forbid
something
you
you
have to
need.
buy a pad that's more expensive than the one because you're allergic to, right? Like again,
Yes.
right? Like it's this blanket. Of course you can eat that. Of
Right.
course you can drink that. Of course you can, right? And
Right.
and this constant conflict of sharing the experience is then assumed that you're not grateful, right?
Right.
And then that shame that
Right.
comes up, right? Like it's
It's a
all of
wheel.
that. And
Right.
so I think it's a wheel, and working with the Bridge Project, I've seen that wheel be interrupted. You know what I'm
I'm happy
saying?
to hear
Because
that. Yeah.
moms are given this money, there's a threshold, there's a qualification, there's a requirement, but
Right.
you're not going through bells, hoops, whistles, proof, we don't need any more evidence of trauma. Like, you
Right.
don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, come on, like, it doesn't need to be harder than it already is.
Exactly.
You qualify. Here you go. Take good care. Call us if you need anything. We're here to help you. Like,
So do you guys have like a packet of like a resource packet that you give people if they need any help? Because you said call if you need help. So if a person needs like food or clothes, do you guys have things for
I
that? Or
love your
that's
brain.
like, you know.
I love your brain. When you running for public office, I'm gonna need to know when you on the ballot. I'm gonna need to know
Thank
when you on
you.
the ballot. They are ready for you. In case you weren't clear, they are in fact ready. Yeah, so really good question. So folks, go to the website. There's actually a really amazing resource guide that my colleagues and I have worked with and through. That's really extensive. So they can access that resource guide. And needs change. As we know, depending on the age of the child, where mom is in her pregnancy, right? Like we touched a little bit about postpartum, but also high risk pregnancy, right? So
Right.
we've had the opportunity of supporting moms, and if they have a high risk pregnancy and now they go into early labor, like all the ways in which the money has been helpful, because their maternity leave might not have kicked in yet, right? So you have
Right.
the spectrum of moms in need of support. But yes, there's access to a resource guide for moms that aren't in the program. But in New York City, each mom is assigned a case manager, a community manager, excuse me, who is there to kind of just be a point person if they have any questions while they're in the program. So while we don't engage with moms in the way that a city agency would, there is an understanding that mom has a name of a person, an email of a person, a phone number of a person in New York City, who can at least support them or help them or help them navigate, should they need it. And what I found is that just knowing that we're there has been good medicine for our moms, right? Like,
Right.
just knowing that there is a person whose phone number is also there to kind of support them and tell them that 311 actually is a good resource to start. Like, it is actually a really good
It
place to
is.
start. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the 311 queen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is such a good resource. Even being able to say that is helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
So guys, this program I feel like I've known about it for a while now, and I've always heard about it. I didn't know everything about it. I'm learning some things today, and I think it's a wonderful program, whether in shelter or not. I want to be able to help anybody who is, who is in middle class and down, to be honest, because we all need help. People, unless you're rich, you're living up above the line, over 100K, even probably that for New York City is not the greatest because rent, again, is so high. But I'm happy that this program is really out there to help moms. Is it only single moms, or is it like could be moms with families also?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Yeah. So marital status is the mom's prerogative, right? Because again, it's household income. And we know that you could have two parents working two city jobs and not not at that threshold, right? Like, right, you can have a TA and a teacher. You know what I mean? You can have somebody working corrections and is a crossing guard. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it's really less about mom's marital status, you know, whether or not they're undocumented or not. It's really around, do you meet these small buckets of qualifications, and then going through the lottery. And I also want to say to your viewership, if I may, those that are listening that are philanthropists, I think if they are looking for a non-for-profit organization to financially support, the Bridge Project is an amazing project to support, because you literally see where the money is going, right? Like, moms are getting this cash allowance. That's where the money is going. You're
Right.
welcome. You know,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, there's no confusion. And I think that's also like kind of dope. Like,
It
you
is.
know that a mom is going to get up to $1,000 for 3 years. Boom, bam, boom. You're helping eradicate child poverty. Well done. Good job.
For
High
sure.
five.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think also to even put it together with people who are in shelter, because most of our people we do talk
absolutely.
to are in shelter. This would be a great way to get a down payment. Again, she said before that it's not a yes, you're gonna get it, but it is a lottery system. But that might be a lucky thing. You just never know what you can
You
do to
never know.
get out of the situation.
That's right.
This would be a great way to get a down payment for your apartment. And if City Fabs, because they give out all these vouchers, and I'm not gonna be talking bad about vouchers because I think vouchers help out a lot of people.
That's right.
But this would be a way to get yourself into a better leg with the voucher. If a landlord see that you have something coming in, you could say, "Oh, I'm getting this certain money for at least 3 years. Plus, you have a
That's right.
voucher." Maybe they'll say, "Okay, I know that you're kind of settled, even if you're not working right now." Something like that. Anything that you can do to make your family have just a better life and be more comfortable and more happier and just not be in a congested shelter, this is a good way to do it. People
Yeah.
might say $1,000 is not much, but it's a lot, because if an apartment costs about $2,000 for a 2-3 bed, well, probably for a studio 2 1 bedroom, that's out 2 3 months you add up. That's
Yeah.
one part of it. That's the down payment. Then you could do this and that, and that's the way to help. And don't forget also the one shot deal. Don't forget that one, because people might leave the shelter not remember that also. But put this together with the one shot deal, so you have a couple of months ahead of time
That's
of
right.
rent.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying these are things. The city FEPS is 5 years. We can also get extended more, plus the 3 years. That's a little money in the bank you can save up,
Yeah.
pocket money. I'm just saying a lot of different things can go up, and I think this money can help so many families. You want your child to not to grow. A lot of kids are growing up in shelter. I don't think anybody on purpose wants that to happen. And this is one of the things that can help you. Definitely take this opportunity.
Absolutely. I would tell any mom to apply, any family
Right.
to apply and see what happens. And you know, and call your congress people, right? Like,
Right.
like, real talk, and be in our communities, and keep having these conversations about the ways in which we can make life softer and more enriching and fulfilling for our young people, for children, because they're gonna be the ones to do this thing called life in and adulting. And
Right.
it's our duty, I think, to make sure that we leave the world better than we found it, and equip moms who are the best CEOs, CFOs, CMOs.
Right.
Like, come on, to be able to do this work of parenting and mothering, which is such important work, such important work.
I'm just thinking about the 52,000 requirement. Was that always a requirement, or did it go up after, again, the pilot? Like, I know some things usually change in pilots. So was that always like the start off, or did they see that
That's a good
amount that they
question.
gave before? Yeah.
Yeah, I think from 2021 we were at
Okay.
52,000. Yeah, because I mean, and what is it? It's just 2024. So, wow, can you believe it? It's 2024.
I cannot.
Um,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. And I love how you reminded us that being in the program just creates opportunity and financial choice, right? Whether you want to save that money, whether you want to use it towards rent, whether you want to use it towards enrichment, swim lessons, dance lessons,
Right.
you know, library card trips,
Right.
museum trips, library card, whatever it is. And I can't reiterate enough that that's one of the things that our moms love the most about the program, is that it's no questions asked. And what a gift that is, to be able to be a whole grown adult doing what you need to
Mm-hmm.
do for your family, because you're a whole grown adult and you know what you need to do for your family. Like, imagine that, You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Yeah.
Who knew? Like, who would do
Who would
that?
have
A
thunk
whole
it?
adult.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So, do the parents get it in hand? Do they get on a card? Is it
Good
like a
question.
prepaid?
Good question. So, it will be $1,000 in New York City. It's on a preloaded debit card right now, right? So they get $1,000 for the first 18 months, and then it steps down to $500 for the second 18 months.
Got it.
Um,
$500, 1,000 you didn't work for? To me, it's a blessing either way. I'm just saying, it's free money. They take. Do you do interviews in the middle of that time, or do you just give it to them and just do what you want, or like they do check-in interviews, do things like that?
Yep. So we do reach out. You're so good at this. The questions are amazing. Like you just
Thank
whoop, whoop,
you.
whoop. I love it. I love it. So we do check-ins with moms every few months. Whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Sometimes just depending on when the mom onboarded and where the mom is, there may be a more communication, right? But we
Right.
do try to reach out to moms. That we do reach out to moms periodically to just check in. And moms aren't obligated, mandated, required to respond back.
Right.
It's just us understanding as an organization what navigating New York City is like, full stop, period. What
Right.
navigating New York City is like as a parent, what navigating a kid in, you know what I mean? Being a
Right.
person in New York City as a parent now, right? So it's just an opportunity for us to just say, hey, we're here. This is how we can support you. If we don't know, we say we don't know, and we'll help navigate that question towards somebody who could be supportive.
That sounds great. Like, it seemed like you guys covered a lot of things to be able to help families and to make sure they have a better life and get out of poverty. I wish they honestly had this, like they had for the tax thing they did in Corona, that parents got 200 and I think it was 250 and then 300 or something like that when depending on what age your child was. I think they should offer it to more families. I know it's funding, so it's not like you're the problem. They have to get more money into the system, into this particular thing to be able to give it to all families. But I think they should have a program for this for people under a certain income bracket anyway, because we are struggling out here.
Yeah.
I think people think like, oh my gosh, you're living this life, but it takes a lot of work. A lot of people have to have multiple jobs. And can you imagine having children that you love to death, but you're working multiple jobs? You don't get to enjoy your child. God forbid if your child dies early. It happens all the time, and it's kind of sad to say, but I would be so depressed and hurt if I knew that I'm working 2, 3 jobs. My child dies at a certain age. I didn't get to experience them like I wanted to. And that's the sad thing about it. So having this particular program is it's very good because it can help out families to stay home more with their child, experience it. Like kids remember these memories. I have memories as a child going to Jamaica with my mom. We might not have been the best like mom and daughter, but I remember certain memories that I had with her. And she worked as a cafeteria lady. She didn't make that much. She also had those side jobs. And I also remember her working a lot, also on Saturday and Sundays. So I didn't see her. I was at people's house when stuff happened to me, unquestionable. And having just being with your mom, and also when you're not watching your own child, anything could happen to your child that you don't know about because you're not there watching them. Granted, stuff can still happen in your house and you don't know, but at least you're close by if the child have to yell
Of
for you.
course.
But when your child is somewhere else and then something happens to your child because of that reason, if you're a real parent, because not everybody, people have kids, but they're not really like real parents or real moms and dads. They're just making kids out here. But when you're a real parent, you have a heart for your child, and to know that something happened to them, that's a different story. So I think it gives families a great opportunity to kind of stay more time. You hear about the latchkey kids, how they didn't have all these things. No, you have these children. You want to experience these children. They're just not another human just to have. They're a
That's so
person to love
beautiful.
on, to care
Yeah.
for, to grow with, to
To
learn
spend
things
time.
from.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And having the space to do that.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, it is. I know how it
Oh, I
is.
love that.
It's a lot. I think anybody who, if you can qualify for this program, I didn't get it. I wish. I don't qualify no more, but I wish I get it.
Well, you know what, doggone it? I'm glad you don't qualify anymore. Can I just say that?
Thank you.
Good job, Khadija. And I remember going to Jamaica with my mother too. As soon as I smell the island, life is
Right.
better for me. My nervous system is just like, oh. You know, good times, good memories.
Yes, yes. Please,
Yeah.
guys,
But I
take it.
would definitely encourage every family to apply. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Whether, as you said before, whether you're married or not, whether you got a boyfriend or not, I'm just saying take the opportunity because it's something that's out there. And I know New York City has an abundance of things. Apply for everything you qualify. Don't think,
That's
oh
right.
my God, you're too good. Like I grew up in that, my mother, I don't know if it's a Caribbean thing or Jamaican. I don't know what it is. But going on special programs, SNAP, welfare, they're like, don't do that, don't do that. But
Yeah.
I had to suck up my pride and go on every program I could find that me and my daughter qualified for because I wanted her to have a better life. I brought her in the world and I was homeless. And to look in my child's face and say, dang, you came here and I failed you already and you just got out, you just came out of me. It's a sad thing to really feel that way. So if you are a person, just suck up your pride. It's not really for you,
Yeah.
it's for the baby to make sure they can have a better life.
For
So
sure. And it's okay for us to need help, right? Like,
yes,
yes, I don't, maybe it's a Caribbean thing as well, like that shame of being in the system. But at the end of the day, the system is there to help, right? So, yes, and right, yes, it didn't feel necessarily great, right? Right. But
right.
also it's there for that purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a gift. Like in that moment in time and space, I needed it, took advantage of it. Not took advantage of it, but you know, you know
No,
what
I
I
know what
mean,
you meant. Yes,
right? And I'm grateful. And so yes, absolutely. Swallow the pride, let the shame dissolve. Whatever story is in your head, use the tools and resources that are here to access a better quality of life for yourself, and then pay it forward, right? And then in 10 years and 5 years, you too can help other women by either sharing your story, by
right.
making a donation to Bridge, by volunteering in your community. Like, just keep the progression going, so that
I
we can end
never
child poverty and we can hear giggling babies all over the world.
I never realized. I just put two and two together. You said that you use a program. You say your baby was born 2022, which is technically that's 2 years ago. So you
No,
did
no,
qualify for the
2002.
two.
2002. He's
That's what I
21.
meant. 22.
Yeah.
Oh, so you qualified for the program. So you are a product of the program.
I could have been.
You
Yeah,
could
for
have
sure.
been.
And I, before the podcast, you asked me, did I have a lived experience of being homeless? And
Right.
in our conversation, we were just kind of talking about life, mothering and all of that other kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think, you know, what connects us is what connects us, right? And this
Right.
understanding that my struggle and your struggle may look different, but we had this shared experience of feeling profoundly frustrated, feeling like a failure as moms,
Right.
feeling under equipped, feeling under resourced, right? And I think
Right.
what makes me drawn to this work is the spectrum of women that we serve, is the spectrum of moms that we serve, and the spectrum of birthing persons that we serve, right? Like, yes, you can be homeless and you can have that city job, right? And so I
Right.
can connect with all of it
Yes.
because the mind chatter for all of us is, I did something wrong,
Right. Right. It's so true.
right? And
Right.
that's the lie,
It
regardless
is.
of being
It
homeless
is.
or this, right? It has nothing to do with right or wrong. The systems are not set up for us to succeed, full stop, period.
That's true.
They were not designed for us to succeed, full stop, period. When we look at tax code, when we, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? When we look at income disparities between brown and black folks,
Yes.
blah, 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 right? Like, it's not set up. So it's not about faults. And so I loved when you encouraged your listeners, and I'm encouraged,
Thank you.
apply for what you can apply for, get what you can get, and move forward. Like, take whatever action steps you need to move
Right.
yourself forward, full
For
stop, period.
sure. The
I'm with
system
it.
is not made for us to succeed. To be honest, I was on welfare from 18, like 2007 or so until 2020. What year was that? 20, what year we in?
We're in
2022.
24.
So I was on it for a while.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they want you, once you, as I said before, if you get a job, what they think is too much, they just want to kick you off. They don't give you a grace period. They don't give you nothing enough to really stand on your feet. So as you get a proper job in their eyes, you're just automatically kicked off. And that's not good. When you are a person who's coming literally off of welfare and you haven't had a job for a while, or you have, most of the time I had it, but I always had a job, but it was just not paying enough for me to really survive. by myself without the welfare. And certain jobs I wouldn't take, especially when I had my daughter, because either it started too early and I didn't have money to pick her up or drop her off to school. So you got to think about those kind of things. But also, I got to think about, it was a Con Edison job. They wanted me to do, I think it was 7:45 or 8 something in the morning in Queens, and I live in Brooklyn. And my daughter went to school in Brooklyn, so it's like, that's gonna be hard to do. It's gonna be non-existent unless I fly like Superman or Supergirl, as you want to
What's the
say.
matter? You can't find your cape?
Right. it's, it was a lot, but also the money that they gave me, when I think about how much school costs and everything else was gonna break down, because I think at the time daycare was like $500 or something dollars, and they paid all of it. I didn't have to pay like a down payment. Some people had to pay like $15, $10 to the daycare, but mine was free. But I gotta think about that. I gotta think about where I'm living. Are they gonna pay my shelter part of it? Are they gonna still give me cash? I have to think about the money I'm making for Con Edison.
You got
Is
to
gonna
run the
be
numbers.
more. You gotta calculate that. So
Yep.
if it's not more, if it's not at least two, three, at least $1,000, I'm not taking that job. That might sound crazy to somebody, but between getting up in the morning, dropping her off, and the money they're gonna take away from me, and I still have to make it up, it didn't make sense. That's why I take jobs now, because I'm over the amount and they're not gonna give it to me anymore. But at first I was like, I gotta really think, is it gonna be worth it? And if it's not gonna be worth it, I can't take a job because it doesn't make sense to take that job. In Corona, for me, compared to a lot of people lost their jobs. That's when I got my most jobs, and ever since then I've been flourishing. So that time really worked out for me. And I think because the homeless spiked a lot because of Corona and everything, it kind of worked out. And they was at the time looking for people with lived experience. So that kind of helped me out. And also at the time I was on unemployment, $600 extra every week. So it kind of helped me out to get myself out of debt and everything like that. So that time worked for me. But after they kind of got it together, it's like, oh, you make too much. Bye. And to me, it's not a lot. But
well, and also, like, real talk, Khadijah, like when you run the numbers, right?
Right.
And you see what was calculated, and then you have to make the choice with those two choices, right?
Right.
On the surface, it's like, I didn't take that job because, but really what you're saying is, do I want to rub two dimes together? Right. Or do I want to rub two nickels together?
Right.
Right.
It is
and
that.
so what that choice does to your nervous system as a caregiver, like, it's an easy choice, but it's not an easy choice, right? Because there's I want to work. Right. I want to be right. And mind you, being working at home as a caregiver is a full-time job, right?
It is.
So I want to work outside the home for another organization. Let me be really clear, as opposed to, you know what I mean? And to have to make that decision is very stressful because, then it's, well, you didn't take the job. Right. It's all the societal, the inner mind talk, and also what comes back. What you mean you didn't take a job? You got opportunity to take a job, but it's like, you're not understanding what that does to my mind, body, nervous system, and how that impacts how I show up as a mom. And that matters.
It does matter.
Stop telling me that this doesn't matter. And then the stress of, like, okay, is another opportunity going to come? Did I just walk away from, on all of these things that go into making those decisions. And so, you didn't take the job, but it was a choice between rubbing two dimes and rubbing two nickels together. It's like, nobody's winning here.
It's not. I did that one time, and I made people pick up my daughter after school. I paid her a little hundred and change a week. And when I calculated how much I was losing for welfare and how much I was giving to this person, I don't think I made over $50 to myself just to survive. Like, the money was taken away from me was more than what I was getting in. And it didn't make sense. I still did it because it gave me something to do, but it doesn't make sense. The way that the math was not mathing at all. No. And it's like, I don't want to live this way. Yeah. That's why I do multiple jobs, because I don't want to be homeless again. And granted, you could be homeless at any point, because people think like, oh my gosh, if you're just lazy, you're going to be homeless, or you're just a drug addict. No, people have floods all the time and are homeless. People have fires all the time and become homeless. People have people they're living with.
People have city jobs or good jobs or working homeless. Like, not
exactly.
Everybody who's homeless is unemployed.
Exactly. I think I just want to make sure when I do these episodes, people understand homelessness is not like, oh, it's a person's fault, like you said before, why it's happening. Something can happen to you and it just becomes a divorce, a DV situation. People are like, oh my God, people are so happy. But no, every week, her head is getting bashed in. Every week, this man or woman is calling this person a name. And people think that, oh my gosh, it's only domestic violence, it's only hitting. No, it's a lot of different things, and that person needs to leave. Especially if you have kids. So the kids are seeing the stupidness. Like, it's happening all the time. It's like, no, they need to live in better conditions. So you might think, oh my gosh, you're the reason why it's happening to you because you're homeless. No, things are happening to me while I'm homeless. I got kicked out of my house. For 25 years I lived there. I was pregnant and kicked me out. And I was married. Not like this happened, because my family is very Christian. So it's not like, oh, I had a baby out of wedlock, oh my God, is she born disgrace? My husband was in Jamaica, but I was married. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I got a bachelor's degree. It's not like also she just all of a sudden had a kid and she had no degree, she had no job. I was working, had a degree, wasn't a great job, but the point is that I was working, had a degree, and all these things. It might not be the luxurious lifestyle, but the point is I still had stuff, in there trying to get better in my life, and I ended up getting pregnant, which I don't mind. I love being a mom. I love being pregnant. I couldn't wait to be pregnant, to be honest. But it's just like things happen to you, and you just have to go with the punches. You have to just you can't just stop there, keep on getting beaten up. You have to keep on tumbling down till you get to proper ground and kind of run away and get your life together. So I don't want people to go away and think like, oh my gosh, these homeless people are just, no. Things happen to people for them to be in a situation. And I want you to take that away. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
No problem. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a guest on my podcast. Well, not mine. It's a Homeless Coalition's podcast, Family Homeless Coalition's podcast. And I just want us to come out with again, I don't want to make sure I understand. Please join this program. Like, if you have, join it. I'm not, mind you, I never had it before, but I just know it works. I know it works. Giving cash to people works. We saw it happen with the tax thing in 2020. People got a little extra.
For sure. We need that back.
Yeah. And a little bit more money than the $250 that I got. I'm just saying, but I pay a lot of taxes. I want a little extra. I want at least 3, 4, 5. I'm just saying, a month.
I mean, when you talk about data, right? Like, it's like what, 46%? 46% just gone.
Right. Just that's a big number.
You know what I mean? That's huge. 46% decline. Like, come on,
Exactly.
So, and shouts out to you. I just thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for your transparency.
Thank you.
Your grace, your wisdom, your questions, your advocacy, your wit. Just, I bow down.
Thank you.
Woman to woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your job. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for advocating for us too. Thank you for knowing that we need cash assistance. People need cash. Just not any questions. Yeah. People just need cash. And thank you for what you do. I know you're working hard. I know it's not easy. People think that, these jobs are easy. They take a lot out of you because they also hear people's stories. And hearing people's stories and where they actually come from, it can be heartbreaking a lot of the times. I'm hearing them. I hear a lot of people's stories of how this and that happened to them. They're on these different problems. And it's very heartbreaking to hear this is happening to people. And I know these things are happening, but to know that a person I'm speaking to right now, it happened to them, it can be overwhelming. So thank you for your job and what you do and how you help out families in New York City. So yeah, sure.
So much love and Happy New Year, and to be continued. Yes. I'd be curious to see, how we grow and how we can keep this conversation going to eradicate child poverty in New York City and to make sure that homeless folks are no longer homeless. How about that?
I have one more question because I think
anything.
Are you in Connecticut? Not you, but are they in other states other than New York City? Because people around the world listen to me, so I want to know if it's just in New York City.
Can you just say that again? I want to hear you say
people around the world listen to me.
One more time to me. What?
People around the world. The analytics tell me that all y'all listen to me, but thank you for you're amazing. But yes,
I know that's right. So we are looking to expand outside of the state of New York. The latter part of this year or next year. For sure. We are looking to expand. For sure. That's without question.
That's good. I only say that just because I know some people in politics, the politics, do listen here and there because they have come to me and told me this. So I know that for a fact.
Yes.
So if you are listening and you live in other states other than New York City, and if you're a person who lives in New York City and want to donate to the Bridge program, we would love for you to make the program bigger and better. We're only up from here. We're not going down. So if you want to expand and help them expand in other states and know how to, because I know every state, as you know, have different laws. So they have to get in a certain way to make things work. if you can help them with these things, I know I'm not, granted, I don't work with the bridge program. I just know they need the help because everybody needs help, from anywhere. Definitely, we're going to put down the information down below. And if you want to be a person to kind of help them along with their journeys, we would love to have that also. So,
Absolutely. Yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and.
well, guys, we have come to the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned so many things. Please, please apply. Please apply. Please apply. I'm not going to stop saying that. Just please apply. It could help out you and your families. Make sure you watch us on all the social medias. We have on different, if people need job opportunities, things like that, job readiness programs. Well, we don't particularly do, but we give you the information to go where you can get those particular things. We are right now doing social media posts 3 times a day, 5 days a week. So if you want to go on any social media program, platform, we're definitely there. I might do some live soon. We'll see. If you give me a topic, I might help you out with that. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being amazing, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Bye. Take care.